compared preparations taken against COVID to the Holocaust. These are sickening, reprehensible comments, and she should stop this vile language immediately. Now, a year ago today, on another front, equally important, George Floyd was murdered in broad daylight by a police officer sworn to protect and serve. Our country was forever changed by the stomach-churning video of Derek Chauvin killing Mr. Floyd. It sparked a summer of protest unlike any we've seen in American history. Around the world, the name of George Floyd was chanted in Rome, Paris, London, Amsterdam, Berlin, and Mexico City. As recently as this weekend, professional soccer players in the British Premier League knelt before the game in support of the global movement against racism touched off by George Floyd. This was not only a fight for justice for one man and his family, who I've had the privilege to meet with, but a fight against the discrimination that black men and women suffer at the hands of state power, not just here in America, but around the globe. It's a fight that continues today. And here in the Senate, we will continue that fight when we vote to confirm the first woman, the first black woman, to ever lead the Justice Department's Civil Rights Division, which was created in 1957 as the Civil Rights Movement began to uphold the constitutional rights of all Americans, but particularly the most vulnerable. When it comes to justice in policing, the criminal justice system, and at the ballot box, the Civil Rights Division is often the tip of the spear, conducting investigations of police departments with patterns or practices of constitutional violations, and defending the fundamental voting rights of every American citizen. So in a way, as we continue to pursue strong policing reform legislation, it is appropriate that we confirm Kristen Clarke, a proven civil rights leader, to the position of Attorney General, Assistant Attorney General, where she can continue the fight against bigotry in many ways. It is appropriate we do it today. Though my Republican colleagues have tried to twist her words to make her sound like some radical, Ms. Clarke is, in reality, a hugely accomplished civil rights attorney who has earned the respect of all sides. Much like her future colleague at the Justice Department, Vanita Gupta, Kristen Clarke has been endorsed by a wide range of law enforcement groups. The truth is, Ms. Clarke will make an exceptional leader of the Civil Rights Division. So again, in a very significant way, as we continue to pursue strong policing reform legislation, the fight for racial justice by confirming Kristen Clarke on the anniversary of George Floyd's murder is particularly poignant and appropriate. Of course, Congress must also pursue strong legislation to end racial bias in law enforcement. Senators Booker and Scott, as well as Representative Bass and others, have been working diligently behind the scenes to fashion such a bill on a bipartisan basis. That important work must continue as we strive to ensure George Floyd's tragic death will not be in vain. On another matter, the Senate continues to work on the U.S. innovation and competition legislation that will lay the foundation for the next century of American economic leadership. I've spoken a lot about the substance of this bill, so this morning I want to reinforce how bipartisan and inclusive this bill is. It is the product of at least half a dozen Senate committees, meaning that every single member of the Senate has had their fingerprints on this bill in one way or another. The two pieces of legislation that form the core of the bill, the Endless Frontier Act and the Strategic Competition Act, passed out of committee on overwhelmingly bipartisan votes, 24-4 in the Commerce Committee, 21-1 in the Foreign Relations Committee. That kind of bipartisanship, almost unanimous support in multiple Senate committees, is rare when it comes to major legislation. It goes to show just how bipartisan this issue is and this legislation is. Literally, dozens of bipartisan amendments were added to the bill before it ever reached the floor. Here on the floor, we are going to continue working through a series of amendments from both sides. With such a depth of cooperation and consensus between our two parties, there is no reason we can't wrap up this bill this week and achieve a strong result for our country. Leader McConnell should be welcoming this bipartisanship as we move forward on the bill. Now, on a final matter. Later today, a group of senators will come to the floor to highlight an important issue, D.C. statehood. The District of Columbia has more residents than in Vermont and Wyoming, and nearly the same number as Delaware, Alaska, and several other states. They have the same obligations of citizenship. D.C. residents pay federal taxes. They can be summoned for juries. They've served in every war since the Revolution. But they are all denied real representation here in Congress. D.C. statehood is an idea whose time has come. So I want to thank Senator Carper for organizing a group of senators to shine a spotlight on this issue today. I yield the floor and note the absence of a quorum.
The clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Baldwin.